down to earth. There's a coronavirus, there's a pandemic, there's suffering, devastation, and people are broke, out of work, home a lot. And there's now. Down to earth brings everything back from a perspective to what the world's really about and what keeps the world alive. The brain and the body and mind can live in the forest, can live in a city with tribal, restrictive rules, behavior guidelines. Take a boat and go sail off to Hawaii or some island far away. But what I'm describing has less to do with progress, less to do with health, and more about organizing the tough men, the big-chested women with babies on their arms, the hunter and the gatherer in the cabin out in the middle of nowhere. Desolate, exciting for some people who like shooting and guns and having more than a single spouse or significant other. To name a few, and to keep an idea of respect in the background. The world's a place where the brain and the mind go with the body together to buy food, to go to work and make money, to be able to have a home, to have a house, to rent a room with 5 other people. And the world now has nearly disappeared, gone away. There's still grocery stores, there's still takeout, restaurant food every so often. People yelling and screaming outside on drugs or just confused or lost or sad. Groups of people cheering. Fancy people driving cars. And the world has condensed into this smaller, more quiet. And slower paced. Civilization, society. And there's people who want to tear down the government now. There's people who've wanted to tear down the government previously. There's people that are planning to keep tearing down the government. Lots of brain. And less options for the body in the world. Hard to describe, hard almost to even think about how fast in a city like Seattle now, how slow the sounds are and the less distractions, less pandemonium about climate change and social order and truth and facts and language and words and consciousness. And the benefit from having these reductions in all of the extras. I went to the grocery store earlier and there's like this new habit, or maybe it's a tradition, or maybe it's been around for longer than I've paid attention, but they do it at the hospital also. A lot of volunteers in their colored shirts will start walking in front of a patient, me specifically. More than one occasion where they just start walking in front of you as if to speed you up. In a similar kind of situation, or an example, in the grocery store of misdirection, confusion from people that work in the business, I stop and I try to regain my vision, and up walks a gender-neutral transgender worker here on Capitol Hill, where the rainbow pride flag shines brighter than any other part of the planet. Walks right in front of me, kind of moves, and then walks back and stares at me. The person stares at me. I am dumb, but I can't figure out why I'm so stupid. I can't figure out what were they trying to accomplish. Are people so convinced in what their bodies can do, they now can change speeds with an image, that they can help people by walking in front of them. I think the example is a little tricky to really get down to, because I don't understand why people would walk in front of me and stare at me. I'm confused. I've got diplopia in my right eye, and there's so many signs on the floor that say stop one way, and then you go the one way, and then you get to another stop, and then you gotta try to find, well, where do you go now? The whole store has 30,000 cameras and $4 million worth of technology, all for the security. So to get to some benefit, back down to earth, in this strange description, example, I'm trying to break down. There's plenty more situations, scenarios, day-to-day and normal life, when there's no pandemic and no quarantine and no coronavirus and people working and just going and doing stuff, social media included, just yelling and screaming a lot, especially here in Seattle, about the climate, social housing, more free money, more options. And what's getting brought down to earth has to do with stimulus. Everybody wants more and more controlled stimulus. And people are being forced into these places where they've got to blend in, they've got to almost camouflage to stay out of the voice from the person who's yelling in their ear for eating a piece of meat. People and families in places like Magnolia where they don't ever leave. They're basically on an island in Seattle with a bridge. AI and artificial intelligence to keep their neighborhood safe and calm and relaxed and peaceful, and how they all like it. The stimulus with these kinds of conditions outside of Magnolia being kind of set aside for the fact that they're already controlling their stimulus. A few restaurants, an old grocery store, parks, fast cars to go wherever they want. Very subdued, but almost infinite choices for where they go outside of their containment. Part of Seattle called Magnolia. There's less and less stimulus. For people who don't like the birds and nature, who can just be peaceful outside and happy in a home with plenty of food. The folks who like to they're in a kind of adjustment period without some sort of technological substitute.